guys. Disqualified. Let's talk about it. Jesus. Coffee. Yay. No long sleeve blue shirts anymore. Traffic's going to be ridiculous. I got to go from here to there. Whew, it's going to be crazy. First day, new job. So let's talk about disqualified. I want to go into a passage in 1 Corinthians 9. What are you talking about with disqualified, Jim? It's a passage in 1 Corinthians 9. It's at the end of 1 Corinthians 9. Paul is talking here. And I want to go over what he's talking about, because this thought doesn't end here. He actually carries it into 1 Corinthians 10. So, but I discipline my body. Now he's talking about running a race, right? In this passage he's talking about running a race, meaning the race of life, right? But he says, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. Was talking about running a race. What, disqualified from what? After you preached to others, disqualified from what? Does he mean disqualified from going to heaven? No. Because you can't be disqualified from something you didn't qualify for. Right? It's not what Paul's talking about there, but so many look at that and go, disqualified? How can you be disqualified from going to heaven? Well, you can't be disqualified from something you didn't qualify for. And we don't qualify to go to heaven. Right? We don't earn our way there. We don't work our way there. It's an undeserved gift that's given to us. Peacemaker. It's an undeserved gift that's given to us by God. And we know that through Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9, right? For by grace you've been saved through faith. Not of yourself. It's a free gift of God. Free gift of God. So we don't disqualify. We can't be disqualified from going to heaven by something we've done because we didn't qualify for it. If you didn't qualify for it, you can't be disqualified. What Paul's actually talking about here is being disqualified from being used and stepping into the fullness of his calling from God. Right? We know that in John 10:10, Jesus tells us the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. So he's talking about, what Paul's talking about here is being disqualified from the living in the fullness of the calling, living in the abundance of what Christ has given him. And how do we disqualify for that? Paul actually goes on to talk about in the beginning of chapter 10, 1 Corinthians 10, how the Israelites, their exodus from Egypt, they were led out of Egypt, but only two of the originals over the age of 20, two males over the age of 20 actually saw the promised land. The rest of them were laid low or died in the wilderness. They were led out, but never got led in. And that's what Paul's talking about here is don't be disqualified. We were delivered from our slavery to sin, from the finished work on the cross, but do we disqualify ourselves from being led into the abundant life and the fullness of abundant life that Christ promises? That's what Paul's talking about here. He's talking about being disqualified from that, living in that fullness of our calling. Being disqualified. How does that happen? So let's go into verse 6. So he goes through it in verses 1 through 5. He talks about all the things that they did. Like they ate spiritual food, manna. We talked about manna last week. Like they were led through the wilderness by pillars of smoke during the day, pillars of fire at night. He said that our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Under the cloud, the pillar of cloud, and passed through the Red Sea. All ate the same spiritual food, manna, and drank the same spiritual drink that when that rock was hit in the wilderness and sprouted water for millions of people, that was Christ. And he says, and that rock was Christ. That's why Jesus is called living water. But he says, nevertheless, with most of them, God was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness. They never saw. They were delivered, but never got to go in. They were let out, but never got to go into the promised land. And he says, we need to be careful of the same things. The same things that happened to them happen to us now. These things happened as examples for us so that we would not crave evil things as they also craved. What were the evil things that they craved? They disqualified themselves from going to the promised land because they were idolaters. They grumbled, they complained, they carved idols. They never got to see the promised land. Delivered from Egypt, from slavery. For us, now it's slavery to sin. We were delivered from that slavery to sin, just like they were delivered from slavery to Egypt. They never got led into the promised land. That generation never got led into the promised land. Only two survived from that original group, and that was Caleb and Joshua. Joshua actually went on to lead them into the promised land. We remember him from Jericho. He led the battle against Jericho, walked around Jericho, and walls of Jericho just crumbled. So, we can't be disqualified from something we didn't qualify for. That was that disqualification that Paul's talking about in 1 Corinthians 9:27 is not disqualification from heaven, but it's disqualification from living the life that we're called to live by Christ. And we disqualify ourselves from doing that by craving evil things. So, it's the disqualified that he's talking about. But again, I just wanted that clarification of there. If you can't be disqualified from something, we don't qualify to go to heaven. We can't earn it, gain it. It's a free gift, an undeserved free gift of forgiveness and new life based solely on the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ to the glory of the Father. So, I love you guys. He loves you like crazy. Seriously. So we'll be back tomorrow with whatever Dad wants to talk about. Love you guys.